They say Christmas is the most wonderful time of the year, a season of giving and warmth. But in the winter of 2023, for me, it became a season of cold revelations and a gift that wasn't just expensive, it was explosive. My name is Elena, and I live in a quiet, snowy suburb just outside of Chicago. I've always been the person who over-prepares for the holidays. I start my shopping in October, I bake enough gingerbread cookies to feed a small army, and I pride myself on finding the perfect, meaningful gift for everyone in my life. I thought I knew my family. I thought I knew my husband, Mark, and my sister-in-law, Chloe. I was wrong. I didn't realize that under the glitter of the decorations, a plot was being hatched that would threaten our entire financial future. It all started on a Tuesday morning in early December. The snow was falling in thick, heavy flakes, coating the pine trees in our yard. Mark was already at his office downtown, and I was sitting at the kitchen island, sipping peppermint tea and checking our joint savings account. We had been saving for 3 years to put a down payment on a larger home. A place with a backyard big enough for our golden retriever and maybe eventually a nursery. We were so close. We had hit our goal of $60,000. But when the screen refreshed, my heart didn't just skip a beat. It felt like it stopped entirely. The balance wasn't $60,000. It was $12,000. $48,000 had vanished into thin air, leaving behind nothing but a digital void. I stared at the screen, blinking, waiting for it to be a glitch. I refreshed again, then again. I logged out and logged back in, my fingers trembling so much I kept mistyping the password. The number stayed the same. 12,000. I frantically scrolled through the transaction history, and there it was, a single outgoing wire transfer from 3 days ago. The recipient's name wasn't a bank or a mortgage company. It was a luxury jewelry boutique in New York City. My head started to spin. Mark didn't buy jewelry. The most he'd ever spent on a gift for me was a nice pair of pearl earrings for our 5th anniversary. $48,000? That wasn't a gift, that was a heist. I called Mark immediately. He didn't pick up. I called again and again. On the 4th try, he finally answered, his voice sounding rushed and strangely high-pitched. "Hey Elena, I'm in a meeting, can I call you back?" I didn't let him hang up. "Mark, where is our house money? Where is the $48,000? There was a silence on the other end of the line so profound that for a second, I thought the call had dropped. Then I heard him clear his throat. "Elena, listen. It's for Christmas. It's a surprise. I didn't think you'd check the account so soon. Just trust me, okay? It's an investment in our family's happiness. I have to go." And then he hung up. Investment? Happiness? I sat there in the silence of my kitchen, the festive red ribbons on my cabinets suddenly looking like warning tape. Mark was a sensible man, an accountant for heaven's sake. He didn't invest in surprises that cost 80% of our life savings. I felt a knot of suspicion tighten in my stomach. Something was very, very wrong. I decided to do something I'd never done in 10 years of marriage. I went into Mark's home office and started looking through his private desk. I felt like a spy in my own home, but the fear of losing our future outweighed the guilt. In the bottom drawer, tucked inside a boring-looking folder labeled tax receipts, I found it. It wasn't a receipt for me. It was an invoice for a custom diamond-encrusted timepiece. And the shipping address wasn't our house in Chicago. It was Chloe's apartment in Manhattan. Chloe, Mark's younger sister, who had spent her entire life jumping from one influencer career to another, always dressed in designer clothes she couldn't afford, always asking Mark for just a little help with her rent. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. Mark hadn't bought an investment for us. He had bought a $48,000 watch for his sister, while we were still living in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment with a leaky roof. I couldn't breathe. I walked over to the window and watched the snow. I thought about all the times I had worked double shifts at the hospital as a surgical nurse to contribute to that fund. I thought about the vacations we skipped, the old car I was still driving, the dreams I had nurtured for our future home. And Mark had given it all away for a piece of jewelry for a woman who didn't know the meaning of a hard day's work. But as I stared at the invoice, I noticed something even more disturbing. Under the payment methods section, it mentioned a secondary loan approval. Mark hadn't just used our savings. He had taken out a high-interest personal loan in both our names using forged signatures. My blood turned to ice. This wasn't just a bad decision, this was fraud. This was a betrayal so deep it felt like a physical wound. I realized then that I couldn't just confront him with a yell and a scream. If I did that, he'd just lie, gaslight me, and try to cover his tracks. I needed to be smarter. I needed to play the long game. I put the invoice back exactly where I found it. I wiped my eyes, took a deep breath, and started planning. If they wanted to play games with my life, I was going to make sure I was the one who won. That evening, Mark came home with a bouquet of lilies, my favorite. He was acting extra cheerful, almost manic. "Smells like cookies in here," he chirped, kissing my cheek. I forced a smile, though it felt like my face might crack. "I'm just getting started on the holiday baking, honey," I said. Throughout dinner, he kept talking about how big this Christmas was going to be, how we finally deserved to live a little. I watched him across the table, wondering who this man was. Had he always been this reckless? Or had Chloe finally managed to completely manipulate him? I decided to test the waters. "So, Mark, I saw a beautiful house listing today. It's exactly what we wanted. I was thinking we should call the bank tomorrow and get our pre-approval letter ready." He choked on his wine. His face went pale, then a blotchy red. Let's wait until after the new year, Elena. You know how slow things are during the holidays. Let's just enjoy the season." I nodded slowly, taking a sip of my water. "You're right. Let's just enjoy the surprises you have in store." He looked at me sharply, searching for a double meaning, but I kept my expression innocent. The next day I didn't go to work. I went to see a lawyer, a man named Mr. Henderson who specialized in white-collar crime and family law. I showed him the photos I had taken of the invoice and the loan documents. His face was grim as he looked through them. "Elena, this is serious. He has used your identity to secure a loan. That's identity theft even within a marriage. If you don't act now, you'll be legally responsible for that debt." He told me exactly what I needed to do. I needed to gather more evidence, freeze my personal credit, and most importantly, I needed to find out why. Why would an accountant risk everything for a watch? I started digging into Chloe's life. Since she lived in New York and we were in Chicago, most of what I knew came from her overly polished Instagram feed. But I started looking closer at the comments and the people she tagged. I found a thread of comments on one of her posts from a man who seemed to be a high-stakes debt collector. "Time is up, Chloe," one comment read. "The boss wants his cut." I realized then that this wasn't a gift. This was a payoff. Chloe hadn't just asked for a watch. She had used the watch as a way to launder money or pay off a dangerous debt she had incurred in the underground gambling circles of New York. And Mark was protecting her, using our life as the collateral. The curiosity was burning through me. How deep did this go? I called Chloe, pretending to be the happy, oblivious sister-in-law. "Hey, Chloe. We're so excited to see you for the family Christmas dinner. Mark said he sent something your way. I hope it arrived safely." There was a pause, then a nervous laugh. "Oh yeah, the special package. It's great, Elena. Mark is such a lifesaver. You have no idea." I felt my jaw tighten. "I think I have a pretty good idea, Chloe. See you on the 24th. I hung up before she could ask anything else. She sounded relieved, like she had gotten away with it. For the next 2 weeks, I lived a double life. I went to work, I decorated the tree, I sang carols, and I even went to Mark's office holiday party. I stood by his side, smiling at his boss, while in my purse, I had a digital recorder and a flash drive containing every bit of evidence I had gathered. I watched Mark laugh and drink eggnog, knowing that the man I had shared a bed with for a decade was a stranger. Every time he touched my shoulder or called me sweetheart, I felt a shiver of disgust. I was mourning a marriage that was already dead, but I didn't have time to cry. I had to protect myself. Christmas Eve arrived. The weather was perfect. A postcard-worthy snowfall, lights twinkling on every house in our neighborhood. Mark's parents, my parents, and Chloe had all gathered at our house for the big dinner. The table was set with my finest china. The turkey was roasting, and the atmosphere was thick with forced holiday cheer. Chloe arrived wearing a massive coat and a scarf that probably cost more than my first car. She looked beautiful, but her eyes were darting around the room, restless and hollow. She didn't have the watch on. I knew why. She had already sold it or handed it over to the people she owed. After dinner, we all moved to the living room for the gift exchange. The room was warm, the fire crackling in the hearth. Mark stood up looking proud. "Before we start," he said, holding up a glass of champagne, "I want to say how much I love this family. We've had a tough year, but we're standing strong. And I have a special surprise for Elena." He handed me a small, beautifully wrapped box. My parents cheered, and Mark's mother wiped a tear from her eye. I opened it. Inside was a simple silver bracelet, maybe worth $200. "It's beautiful, Mark," I said, my voice flat. "But it's not quite as beautiful as the one you sent to New York, is it?" The silence that followed was deafening. Mark's smile froze. Chloe's glass stopped halfway to her mouth. What are you talking about, honey?" Mark stammered, his face turning that familiar blotchy red. I stood up and walked over to the Christmas tree. I didn't reach for a gift. I reached for a thick, manila envelope I had hidden behind the tree skirt. "I think it's time everyone sees what we're really celebrating this year," I said. I handed copies of the invoice and the forged loan documents to my father-in-law and my own father. As they started reading, the room exploded. My father-in-law, a retired police officer, looked at the papers and then at his son with a look of pure fury. "Mark? $48,000? And a loan in Elena's name?" Mark tried to scramble. "It's not what it looks like. Chloe was in trouble. They were threatening her dad. I had to do something." I looked at Chloe, who was now sobbing, her face buried in her hands. "In trouble for what, Chloe?" I asked. "Gambling? Bad investments? Or just wanting to look rich while your brother ruined his wife's life to pay for it?" The Christmas spirit evaporated instantly. My mother was holding me, crying, while the men in the family were shouting. Mark tried to come toward me, his hands outstretched. "Elena, please, I was going to tell you. I was going to pay it back. I just needed time." I backed away, looking at him with a coldness that surprised even me. "You didn't need time, Mark. You needed a reality check. You didn't just break the bank. You broke my trust, you broke the law, and you broke this family. There is no paying it back when you've stolen someone's sense of security." I told them all to leave. Every single one of them. I didn't care that it was snowing, I didn't care that it was Christmas Eve. I wanted the toxicity out of my house. Mark tried to stay, pleading, but my father stood in his way. "You heard her, Mark. Get your things and go. You're lucky she hasn't called the police yet." Mark looked at me one last time, and for the first time I saw him clearly. He wasn't a hero saving his sister. He was a coward who was afraid of conflict and had chosen the path of least resistance, even if it meant sacrificing me. When the house was finally empty, I sat on the floor by the tree. The lights were still twinkling, the fire was still burning, but the house felt hollow. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat there in the silence, listening to the wind howl outside. I looked at the $12,000 left in our account on my phone. It wasn't $60,000, but it was enough to start over. It was enough for a lawyer, a small apartment, and a new life. The gift Mark had given me wasn't the silver bracelet or the watch for Chloe. The real gift was the truth. It was the clarity of knowing exactly who I was married to before I brought a child into that mess. The next few months were a blur of legal battles and paperwork. I didn't hold back. I filed a police report for the forged signatures. I wanted a clean break, and that meant holding Mark accountable for the fraud. He lost his job at the accounting firm. They couldn't have someone on staff who forged documents. Chloe disappeared again, moving to another city to find a new Mark to fund her lifestyle. Mark's parents haven't spoken to me since, blaming me for ruining their son's life. It's funny how people always blame the person who speaks the truth, rather than the person who told the lie. I moved out of that house in February. I found a small, sun-drenched studio in the city, closer to the hospital. It doesn't have a backyard for a golden retriever yet, but it's mine. Every piece of furniture, every plate in the cupboard was bought with my own money, with no lies attached. I still have the silver bracelet Mark gave me. I keep it in a drawer as a reminder. Not a reminder of love, but a reminder of the day I found my voice. I learned that silence isn't always golden. Sometimes it's just a cage. And I am never going back in. This past Christmas, I did things differently. I didn't bake for an army. I didn't spend months shopping. I volunteered at a local shelter. serving dinner to people who had truly lost everything. I found more warmth in that cold community hall than I ever had in my decorated suburban living room. I'm still a nurse, still working hard. But now I'm saving for a future that I know is real. I'm rebuilding my credit 1 month at a time. It's a slow process, but there's a peace in it that I can't describe. I don't check my bank account with fear anymore. I check it with pride. People often ask me if I regret doing what I did on Christmas Eve. They say, "Couldn't you have waited until the next day? Did you have to do it in front of everyone?" My answer is always the same. No, I couldn't wait. When someone is actively burning your house down, you don't wait for the fire to go out before you scream for help. You scream while the flames are high so everyone can see the arsonist. I didn't ruin Christmas. Mark and Chloe did that long before I opened my mouth. I just stopped pretending that everything was okay. I've started dating again, slowly. It's strange to trust someone new, to share parts of my life again. But I have new rules now. I'm transparent about my finances, and I expect the same. I don't look for surprises anymore. I look for consistency. I look for the kind of person who knows that a $48,000 watch is a tragedy, not a triumph. I'm okay being alone too. There's a certain power in knowing that you are your own safety net. I don't need a man to build a house for me. I can buy my own bricks. If you're listening to this and you feel that knot in your stomach, that feeling that something isn't quite right, that the numbers don't add up, or that the person you love is hiding behind a mask, don't ignore it. Your intuition is the most valuable gift you possess. Don't let the holiday spirit or the fear of making a scene keep you quiet. You deserve a life built on the truth, not a life built on a pile of designer boxes and forged signatures. Money can be earned back, houses can be rebuilt, but your time and your peace are irreplaceable. Looking back at that snowy morning in Chicago, I see a woman who was terrified of losing her dream. Now I see a woman who realized that the dream she had was actually a nightmare in disguise. I'm grateful for that bank account glitch. I'm grateful for the $48,000 watch. Because without them, I might still be sitting at that kitchen island drinking peppermint tea and living a lie. The bank may have been broken, but my spirit is stronger than it's ever been. And that is a gift that no one can ever take away from me. The winter of 2024 is coming soon. The air is already getting crisp, and the first few frost-covered mornings have arrived. This year, when the snow starts to fall, I won't be looking for red ribbons or gingerbread men. I'll be looking at the clear, open road ahead of me. I'm planning a trip for myself. Not a luxury cruise or a fancy resort, but a quiet hiking trip in the Pacific Northwest. Just me, my thoughts, and the fresh air. I've learned that the best investments aren't in jewelry or watches. They're in your own strength and your own freedom. I still think about Mark sometimes. Not with anger, but with a dull sort of pity. He chose a watch over a wife. He chose a lie over a life. I wonder if he ever looks at the time and thinks about what he lost in those $48,000. I hope he does. Not because I want him to suffer, but because I want him to understand that some things are priceless. You can't put a price tag on a person's soul. And you certainly can't buy back a heart you've shattered with a forge and a fountain pen. As for Chloe, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that she's back in New York, working a regular job for the first time in years. Maybe the watch didn't solve all her problems. Maybe she finally realized that you can't run from your debts forever. I hope she finds her way too. But she's no longer my responsibility. I'm no longer the safety net for people who refuse to learn how to walk on their own 2 feet. My net is reserved for people who actually care about me. My new apartment is small, but it's filled with light. I have a few plants on the windowsill, a comfortable chair for reading, and a desk where I'm writing my own story. I want other women to know that they aren't alone. I want them to know that financial abuse is real, and it's okay to fight back. I want them to know that breaking the silence is the first step toward breaking the cycle. My voice used to shake when I spoke up. Now it's as steady as a heartbeat. So here's to the Christmas gift that broke the bank. Here's to the jewelry boutique in New York and the forged signatures. Here's to the moment I decided I was worth more than a luxury timepiece. It was a painful, messy, and expensive lesson, but it was the most important one I've ever learned. I am Elena, I am a survivor of betrayal, and I am the architect of my own future. And this year, the only thing I'm giving myself is the permission to be happy, truly and honestly happy. The clock on my wall is ticking. It's a simple wooden clock, nothing fancy, no diamonds. But it tells the truth. It tells me that time is passing, and with every second, I am moving further away from the shadows of my past and closer to the light of my future. I'm not afraid of what the next bank statement says. I'm not afraid of the next surprise, because I know that whatever happens, I have the power to handle it. I have my silence broken and I have my life back. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it gives you the courage to check your own accounts, trust your own gut, and never, ever let anyone make you feel small for wanting the truth. Have a safe, honest, and truly wonderful holiday season, wherever you are and whoever you're with. Remember, the best gifts don't come in boxes. They come in the form of the people who actually have your back. Good night and stay strong. I'm standing on my balcony now, looking at the city lights. They look like diamonds scattered across a velvet cloth. But unlike the watch Mark bought, these diamonds are free for everyone to see. They don't require a loan, they don't require a lie. They just require you to look up. And that's exactly what I'm doing now, looking up, looking forward, and never looking back. My journey is just beginning, and for the first time in my life, I'm excited to see where the road leads. I've realized that wealth isn't about what's in your bank account. It's about the peace in your heart. I might have fewer zeros in my savings than I did a year ago, but I've never felt richer. I have my dignity, I have my truth, and I have my freedom. And in the end, that's the only currency that really matters. So as the snow begins to fall once again, I'm wrapping myself in a warm blanket, brewing a fresh cup of tea, and celebrating the best gift I've ever received. My own life reclaimed and renewed. There's a quiet strength in starting over. It's not a defeat, it's a redesign. I'm taking the pieces of my old life and building something better, something stronger, something that can't be broken by a single wire transfer. I'm no longer the woman who over-prepares to please others. I'm the woman who prepares to protect herself. And that, my friends, is a Christmas miracle in its own right. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a life of truth and transparency. The sun is beginning to set, casting long blue shadows across the snow. It's a peaceful sight, a reminder that even the coldest winters eventually give way to spring. I'm ready for my spring. I'm ready for the flowers to bloom in my own backyard, whenever that may be. But until then, I'll find beauty in the frost, strength in the silence, and joy in the simple fact that I am free. My story doesn't end with a broken bank. It ends with a mended heart, and a future that belongs entirely to me. I hope my words stay with you. I hope they remind you that you are the most valuable asset in your own life. Don't let anyone devalue you. Don't let anyone trade your security for their vanity. Hold your head high, keep your eyes open, and always keep your own pen close. You are the only one who should be signing off on your destiny. Thank you again, and may your days be bright and your heart be at peace. Goodbye for now.